Gretchen and Flubber are from the Gulf of Mexico. Tigger, Pete, and Lucy are from the Caribbean Sea.
Family Guy is written by manatees? Of course, it all makes sense now.
Probably the only show that has ever been able to compete with Simpsons when it comes to being the top dog of animated late night. When I was a kid, it was almost a passing of the torch. You had The Simpsons moving into a space that was more of a family-friendly show, and Family Guy was now the edgier show that my teenage self wanted because I loved to consume things that had crude humor. And now that I'm older, it's all Rick and Morty. But Family Guy has now reached the point that the show is so deep that people have started making theories about what's happening behind the scenes that the writers don't tell us. So we are going to take a look at that with today's list of top 10 scary Family Guy theories. I'm your host, Chade Arena, and I want to give a shout out to everyone out there who's part of the most amazing top 10 family. If any of you guys are watching and you're interested in grabbing some merch, then check out the link in the description below and use the offer code MA10. That will give you $5 off. And make sure you stick around until the end of this video because I'm going to be doing some more pet shoutouts, which you guys love so much. Remember, if you want me to shout out your pet, you can hit me up on Instagram. And without taking any longer, let's get into this list. Coming in at number 10, we have Chris Griffin will be a serial killer. Why not start off with a heavy hitter? Now, there is an episode where Chris recreates a famous scene from Silence of the Lambs where Buffalo Bill is dancing in front of the mirror naked with a large scarf. For anyone who hasn't seen Silence of the Lambs, Buffalo Bill is a serial killer who kidnaps young girls, puts them in a hole in the ground, makes them put lotion on their skin so he can later use it to make dresses. Yeah, it's pretty messed up, but it goes a little deeper than just a gag from the movie. Seth Green, who voices the character of Chris, actually based the voice on Buffalo Bill, so that could be how the gag originally got in the show. But how far are the writers willing to take this relation? Maybe on one episode we'll see into the character's futures and we might see that Chris has a basement full of bodies. Coming in at number 9, we have Brian is a god. Now, not like a real god. You don't go to church every Sunday to pray to an animated dog, but that he's the god of the Family Guy universe. There are a couple of things that point towards this. Brian is a dog, but he lives life as a human. I mean, sure, he does do some things that dogs do, but he also drinks, parties, dates, falls in and out of love, and everything else that every other human character on the show can do. On top of this, he's voiced by the creator of the show, Seth MacFarlane, and Seth uses his natural speaking voice to talk as Brian. So the idea of Brian being the god of the Family Guy universe is that Seth is projecting himself into the show and living through the character. So Brian and Seth are one in the same. I mean, if you can't live out your dreams in the regular world, then just create an animated world and have at it. Although I don't know what else Seth MacFarlane could possibly want out of this world. Coming in at number 8, Peter and Lois will get divorced. The fat guy married to an attractive lady is a classic theme that many sitcoms, animated or otherwise, have used again and again, and in all these shows the talk of divorce comes up so many times. It's usually just a running joke that never gets realized, but many of the fans have speculated that Family Guy might be the first show to do it and stick with it. The theory is that they might have a spin-off series starring Lois. It would be a dramatic change for the show, but they have experimented with spin-off shows before. We had the Cleveland show that took Cleveland back to his hometown to raise a family, and American Dad isn't really a spin-off, but the two shows reference each other quite a bit. Having a female lead would be a change, and the spin-off format that they've been trying might be a huge hit. Coming in at number 7, we have There is a Family Guy Multiverse. There is no denying that Family Guy has some of the craziest plot lines on TV, unless you're counting shows like Aqua Teen Hunger Force, where 3 of the main characters are living food products. But how do they all do all of these wild things, and how do they happen all to the same family? Well, there's a theory that many of these episodes take place in different universes, thus giving the show the possibility for anything to happen at any time because all realities are flowing simultaneously. Going along with this theory, some people think that the universe the show took place in before the show was canceled was destroyed. That is why so much of the show has changed. Everything in the previous existence got erased. Coming in at number 6, we have Stewie is the clone of an evil genius. Now, who this genius is yet to be pinpointed. Some people think that it's a Nazi scientist from the past, and other people say that it's someone from the future that sent their DNA back in time so it could grow up to take over the world. But Stewie constantly has access to gadgets and weaponry that are far beyond anything that any normal person should have. I mean, he has tech more advanced than any of the world's militaries, things to phase through dimensions and travel through time. Also, he's been able to wage war against all of his enemies. Now, this character has been softened since the show originally launched. Remember back when he was always trying to kill Lois, but there's definitely signs that he has a super level intellect. Coming in at number 5, we have the whole show takes place in Peter's psychosis. Even for an animated show, Family Guy has some crazy things happen with zero explanation as to how all this stuff can happen to one family. I mean, they're all supposed to be normal humans, right? Well, some fans have theorized something that is very dark and twisted. Some people think the show is a sitcom with real world consequences, and the reason that the show was originally canceled was because everyone on the show died in a terrible accident. Everyone except for Peter. This was an accident that he caused, and the stress of killing all of his friends drove him insane. Now the show either takes place in his head, or it is actually the ramblings he's telling a psychiatrist every time he has to sit down with them in a mental institution. That would explain how the show has gotten so crazy over the years. It's all the ramblings of a madman. Coming in at number 4, we have the same dinner theory. I don't know if you guys have realized this, but the Griffin family sits down to eat the same food every night. Go through and watch a bunch of episodes of Family Guy. Every time it's dinner, they eat the same 3 things: mashed potatoes, some roast beef, and what looks like a pile of peas. No wonder Peter Griffin can never lose weight. He needs to mix in some healthy fats and cut out all of those potatoes. So who in their right mind would choose to eat the same thing every night, day in and day out? Well, that is because they have been forced to act out the show because they are prisoners. The whole show takes place in a basement on a set that someone constructed. He kidnapped a family to make them act out a sitcom in his home. It was some script that no one would buy. So the reason that they eat the same food every night is because they have no other choice. Also, we clearly know that someone would buy this script. It's one of the most successful shows that has ever been made. Coming in at number 3, we have Joe Swanson Can Walk. Joe Swanson is the wheelchair-bound neighbor to the Griffins, and he is probably the most active person on the show. He's super fit, he works as a cop, and some fans have speculated that it's all a trick, that he's been able to walk this whole time, and the cop in a wheelchair thing is just an act. Joe secretly works for the CIA and has been stationed to be Peter and Lois's neighbor, so he can keep an eye on all the crazy things that they're doing all the time. It's his job to try and find out how they have insane amounts of money to spend on anything they wish, how they have connections all over the world, and how they can never die no matter how crazy of an accident they get into. Really, the whole Griffin family seems like gods just experiencing human life for fun. At number 2, we have The Chicken is Death. Now, I know that Death has shown up on the show before and has hung out with Peter and the other members of his family, but some people think that the representation of Death that we have seen on the show isn't actually Death. It's some sort of godly figure that is extremely powerful, but whenever it shows up, it teaches Peter a lesson. It doesn't really take him to the afterlife. The chicken, on the other hand, has worked very hard to try and kill Peter, but Peter seems to be unkillable. That is why the chicken wants him so bad. Death wants the one soul that will not give itself up to him. If he can get Peter's soul, then he will be able to take the rest of Quahog. Coming in at number 1, we have Family Guy was created through an act of God. This is one of the craziest theories about Family Guy that I can find, and that is why it has the sweet number 1 spot. I don't know if you guys know this about Family Guy, but the creator of the show, Seth MacFarlane, was supposed to be on one of the flights that ended up crashing into the World Trade Center. The reason he missed the flight is because he was so hungover that he didn't make it to the airport in time. Talk about lucky. It's crazy to think that a certain chain of events led down to that moment, and Seth must have felt like the luckiest person in the world. But some people don't think it was luck. They think that it was God's plan. Shout out to Drake. God made sure Seth would live so he could make Family Guy. People even go as deep to say that there are hidden messages from the big man upstairs in the show. And if you watch the show closely, you'll see that there are more than just fart jokes, but the word of God himself coming through Seth MacFarlane. So if you want God to save your life, you just gotta write a really good spec script. Alright everyone, that has been our list, and as promised, I'm gonna be doing some more pet shoutouts. Remember, if you want me to shout out your pet, you can hit me up on Instagram. I pick new pets every day, so if you don't get picked one day, you can message back another day. If it takes me a little while to get back to you, I am very sorry. I have a lot of these to do. And without taking any longer, let's shout out some pets. To kick things off, we have the little cutie Munchie. Look at him all snuggled up. What a cute doggo. Next up, we have Orion, and that filter is doing wonders for you, girl. Then we have a couple of Dumbo rats, which I just learned is a thing. We have Octavio and Mr. Meeseeks. After that, we have Volstagg, who's just relaxing on the couch super hard. And to close it out, we have Abby, who is sitting there like a real person. She's doing a big time human sit. Alright everyone, that has been our list. Thank you all so much for tuning in. As always, I would love it if you could like, comment, subscribe, and hit the little notification bell. Until next time, I've been your host, Jade Arena, and now I gotta watch a ton of Family Guy.